Yes, hello beautiful people, and thanks so much for watching us here on Great Day Louisiana. I'm Malik Mingo, as always. I hope you're doing well today. As always, we have a great show for you all. We're beginning in our LCMC Health Wellness Lounge because listen, we all know we want to be outside this summer, right? But look, the sun be sunning, and unfortunately, many of us may end up with a sunburn. If you do get one, how do you properly treat it? And what are some of the common misconceptions when it comes to sunburns and sunscreen? Well, we are talking about it all right now. Joining now for a conversation is Dr. Haas. He's an assistant professor and program director at LSU Health Sciences Center's Department of Dermatology. Welcome to the show, Doctor.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, I am so glad we are talking about this because, look, nobody wants to get a sunburn, but unfortunately, a lot of us will end up getting one. Before we talk about how to properly treat a sunburn, I feel like it's important to know that there are different types of sunburns. What are those different types?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can think of them functionally like a burn, like a chemical burn or an open flame. First degree, second degree, third degree. First degree are just very superficial, redness, pain, obviously. Second degree, you're starting to blister, you're in that middle layer of skin, and then third degree is, you can think of like a full thickness almost.
Oh, Lord, and I'm guessing the most common is the first degree.
Yeah, first degree and second degree we see more commonly.
Ooh, unfortunate. Now, anybody who has had a sunburn before, it can be painful. When we first have realized we've gotten a sunburn, what's the first thing we should do?
So avoiding the sun is the first thing absolutely that should be done. Following that, treating it like a wound. For example, if it blisters and you have an open wound, covering it with Vaseline. You can use aloe-based products to soothe, but nothing that's fragranced or irritating. And there's a lot of products out there that are irritating, unfortunately, that are marketed for sunburns.
And look, if you do get a sunburn, don't put more sunscreen on it, right? Because that's not going to help it.
If you're indoors, just caking it with sunscreen's not necessarily going to help, but if you're going to be back outside, we would recommend putting some sort of sunscreen block, like a physical blocker, for example, which we'll talk about.
Good to know for sure. Now, I'm curious as well. Obviously, peeling is something that may happen with a sunburn. Should we peel it if we start to peel?
I would just let it peel naturally.
How long does it take to usually get over a sunburn?
Usually, depending on the type of sunburn, about a week is a good timeline to keep in mind. After the first couple of days, you start to peel, skin starts to fall off. Some people blister, unfortunately, and then you're looking at 10 to 14 days for it to resolve.
And what are some of the most common areas that we get sunburns?
So most common areas, upper extremities, so the backs of the hands, backs of the forearms, the face, the shoulders, upper back, and chest are the more common areas to get it.
I'm really weird, and I'm curious, how does skin color affect how we get a sunburn? I only will get a sunburn on my nose or the back of my neck.
Yes.
So how does skin color play a role?
So patients with skin of color will have the same exact areas affected, and I'm glad you brought up back of the neck is also very common. What we see more commonly with patients with skin of color, especially with medium and darker tones, is hyperpigmentation, especially on the face.
Yes.
Deep hyperpigmentation.
Yes.
And that takes much longer. That can take years to resolve, especially if patients aren't protecting themselves with sunscreen when they're outdoors.
And I don't get red, I just get really dark, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I was in Colombia in February and that sun was sunny. And it really burned my nose. And I want to talk about some of the common sunburn myths. Everybody take a look at your screens, and look, these are all myths, okay? If you have dark skin, you don't need to wear sunscreen. That is the myth. Everybody 6 months and older should be wearing sunscreen, right?
That is correct.
And what SPF do you suggest?
I suggest 50 and above. The standard wisdom is 30 plus is protective, but I always suggest 50 and above for all my patients, no matter what their skin of color is.
And there's a difference between mineral sunscreen and chemical sunscreen. What are the differences?
So mineral sunscreens, zinc oxide, titanium dioxide, those are physical blockers. That's the best way to think of them. They are physically blocking the sun. There's a little bit more to it than that, but they are physically blocking the sun. So old school lifeguard sunscreens right here, right? Yeah. Chemical sunscreens react a little bit differently. They tend to absorb a little bit better depending on what product you're using, but chemical means of blocking the sun, not physically blocking.
How do you know which one to go with?
I always prefer physical sunscreens for most of my patients. If they have questions about sunscreen safety and all that good stuff, allergy, I tell them go with physical sunscreens. You can't go wrong with it.
Good to know. Let's take a look at our next myth. We have some more for you. You don't need to wear sunscreen in the winter. Absolutely, because the sun be out. Hello.
Yeah, UV is UV. So even if it's not cold out, even if it's not warm outside, the UV is still shining through. And the
so
UV
important.
rays are what we worry about with, skin cancer, sunscreens, and all that good stuff. That's
And
the
look,
main offender.
in South Louisiana, we really don't get a winter, so it's important that we wear sunscreen all year round. I believe we have one more I want to show everybody when it comes to mitts. You don't need to wear sunscreen when it's cloudy. Also a lie.
Yeah, the UV rays break through the clouds. They offer very minimal to no protection. So UV protection when it's cloudy outside is paramount.
And when it comes to sunscreen, it's been in the news recently about how the sunscreen may impact the environment. You hear about this in your office a lot as well. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, patients have questions about sunscreen safety or environmental impact. Do we even really need to wear sunscreen and all that good stuff? And what I tell them is, look, most of the sun that we get that causes skin cancer, we got in our 20s, early 30s, and so the damage is done. So especially older patients that are questioning whether or not to wear sunscreen, wear it. You know what I mean? Keep it from becoming more of a problem. It's more beneficial than it is risky to go with sunscreen.
Absolutely, and it's interesting. Speaking of skin cancer, I want to read you all this stat. 1 in 5 Americans will develop skin cancer by the age of 70. Is sunburns something that maybe that is like a precursor to skin cancer? How does a sunburn maybe lead to causes of skin cancer?
Sunburns increase your risk of skin cancer depending on the type of cancer exponentially. Melanoma, for example, the most worrisome type of skin cancer.
Yes.
The one that killed Bob Marley, that every time you sunburn, and many of us have sunburned, myself included, in our youth multiple times, exponentially.
It is so important that we stay protected during the summer because, again, hopefully we have a lot more sunny days ahead. Okay, it's been raining a lot, but still, there have been some peaks of sunshine. Dr. Haas, thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely.
And look, everybody, if you want more information about how to protect your skin during the summer, log on to lcmchealth.org. All right, coming up next, everybody, listen, summer can be tough on the skin. We just talked about that, but it can also be a tough time for small businesses. We have some tips on how they can stay afloat during this slower time after the break. Don't move.